Well, the other thing that we want to talk a little bit about is cap and trade a little bit, and then maybe give you a chance to talk about your carbon tax proposal a little bit, because I think both of those issues of concern to business as well as our citizens, particularly on the cap and trade. If the numbers or the estimates that of additional costs that's going to be added to businesses and residential consumers from cap and trade are believable and are on target, pretty significant increase for American businesses to absorb that, particularly in light of a global marketplace.
Right, yeah. I voted against cap and trade for 3 reasons. 1, it's a tax increase in the midst of a recession. 2, it's a Wall Street trading scheme that would make a Bear Stearns trader blush, I think. And 3, it punishes American manufacturing, because we're adding a price to carbon to our domestically produced goods, but the imported goods don't have that price on carbon, except that they maybe come from European Union or something. So that means China and India get to import stuff to this country without the recognition of the price of carbon.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I voted against cap and trade. I think we got something a lot better. It's a revenue-neutral tax swap. And basically what it is you reduce payroll taxes. It starts with a tax cut.
Right.
It's very similar really to the fair tax kind of concept. You know, with the fair tax, you eliminate taxes on income and payroll, and then you impose a tax on sales.
Right.
And so similar to that, this revenue-neutral tax swap starts with a tax cut. You cut the taxes on payroll, which are currently 6.2% employer, 6.2% employee on the first $106,800 worth of income. So you start there with that tax cut, and then in equal amount, you impose the same amount of tax on carbon dioxide. The result is you just shift what you tax. You change what you tax. No additional revenue to the federal government. Very important to be revenue neutral. And the tax swap gives us the opportunity to drive an innovation in this country that would break the addiction to oil, that would thereby improve our national security, create jobs, and clean up the air. It's the triple play of this American century, I think. But cap and trade is not the way to do it. And I realize there are some chamber members who liked cap and trade. The U.S. Cap Group liked cap and trade, and I can understand why. There's some great companies that are part of that. Caterpillar, I think, is. General Electric is. Duke, I think, with Duke Energy was part of that. I respect all those people's opinions because they're important participants in this debate. I just think that what we can do is do a lot better than that. We can, with this revenue-neutral tax swap, we can also not just win that triple play, again, of cleaning up the air, creating new jobs, and improve the national security of the United States, but the other thing we do is we avoid that third problem of cap and trade, which was the hit on American manufacturing, because what I'm talking about would be a border-adjustable tax, so that it could be removed on export and imposed on import.
Gotcha.
So therefore, Chinese goods coming in would be subject to that price on carbon, so that you wouldn't have this disadvantage of cap and trade, which is that China and India get to belch and burn for free.
Right.
But under a revenue-neutral tax swap, China and India would have to recognize that price when they import it into this country. It'd be one less reason to move productive capacity out of America to China and India.
Well, give you a chance to kind of toot you on the horn too. I know that with a clean economy and clean energy, nuclear power. Can you talk a little bit about your position on nuclear power and reprocessing in the United States? Where are you on that, Colin?
It's very exciting opportunities we've got with nuclear, especially in South Carolina, because we're comfortable with nuclear here. We've got the Savannah River site, we've got a number of generating facilities, nuclear power plants. So we're used to it. And what we see is it's a particularly clean way to make electricity. It also can create lots of jobs.
Right.
But here's the thing, a lot of us conservatives have basically said it's the enviros that have stopped us from being able to build nuclear power plants. And that's been true because of the lawsuits and all that. George Bush fixed part of that. There was, it used to be that there were two permits you had to get. You had to get a building permit, you had to get an operating permit.
Right.
Well, you get sued before the building permit, you get sued before the operating permit. And especially the problem was you get sued in the middle.
Right.
And so nobody would lend money to somebody who wanted to build a nuclear power plant
Right.
because they weren't sure they could ever operate the thing. So George Bush said, nonsense, we're going to have one permit. So it's a building permit, it's an operating permit. You get one and you can go. Now you get sued on the front end of that, and we still have a problem with some environmental folks that don't want to do nuclear. By the way, though, a number of environmental groups are coming around to recognize that
They are.
gee, it's a great way to make electricity. I mean, it has trade-offs. Surely the nuclear waste is a big trade-off. But compared to the 24/7 emissions from a coal-fired plant, nuclear is pretty great.
Well, if you go back and if we have the courage enough to change the reprocessing rules, similar to what maybe France does, where we process 95% of it rather than 10 or 15% what we're doing right now, really makes it environmental friendly, I think.
Yeah, much less waste that way. We reuse it. The rest of the world pursued that. Jimmy Carter led us into a non-proliferation kind of stance, which was understandable from a foreign policy perspective, but the problem is that everybody else in the world decided to go with reprocessing, and so we're the only ones that aren't just running it through once rather than using it again. But the other thing that I think is very important to know, Otis, is that unless we do, a conservative position is usually just to blame the environmentalist on why we don't have nuclear power plants. But that's not the real reason we don't have nuclear power plants. It's part of the reason, but the bigger part is this. The PSC isn't going to approve a nuclear power plant compared to coal-fired plant because nuclear power plant costs more. The electricity coming out of it costs more than a coal-fired plant. Reason? Coal-fired plant can belch and burn for free.
Right.
No accountability for the CO2 coming out of the stack and not much accountability for the small particulates. Even if you think the CO2 is a bunch of hooey and no need to worry about climate change, the small particulates are for real, and there are quantifiable health risks that come from those small particulates. And if you happen to be asthmatic and you live downstream of one of those smokestacks, you know what it means to your health. So if you say through a price on carbon, which the revenue neutral tax swap would do, be accountable. Hold your stuff on your property, coal. Then nuclear would suddenly become economically viable. It's a question of dollars and cents here. It's a question about whether it's economically sustainable. And this is what, you know, it's great to have people from the chamber around because they understand you got to be able to make electricity profitably. You got to be able to make a product profitably. You can't lose money on something because it's not sustainable. Right. And so the way to, right now, coal has a freebie in the air. It has this, what economists call an unrecognized negative externality. If you force the recognition of that, then coal doesn't look as attractive as nuclear, and we start building nuclear power plants. And I got to admit to parochial interest, I think we're going to build some of them in Greenville, in Spartanburg. And we got engineers in Greenville and Spartanburg that are going to design those plants, and we got construction companies in the upstate that are going to build those plants. So I plan on our folks making some money out of it, and I don't mind telling you that's my goal.
Well, we've got a chance to make the Southeastern Grid a place where, you know, business wants to locate because they got reliable, predictable energy. Hopefully it'll be low cost in the end, but I think the reliability and predictability is more important than some of the other things. So, Congressman, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for talking about some issues that I know has been important to business. And the Chamber looks forward to helping you any way that we can and talking issues and making sure that we advance jobs and create wealth for our citizens in this state. So, thank you for being with us today.
Great to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining this edition of CEO Corner, and next week we'll be back to talk with another public policy maker in this state about issues that are important to you.